Hey, deserving listeners, I want to do a special episode today because someone actually emailed me a list that other people are posting that details all the allegations and the data that we have regarding who abused who, Johnny or Amber. And I want to read that list so that I can become accustomed with it and also just maybe catch you up. So let's get into it. And who knows the accuracy of this, and let me know in the comments if I missed anything here, because I'm curious. And I don't know who to credit, because whoever sent me this, they didn't know where it came from, so I don't know where it came from. But this individual detailed the different evidence against Johnny Depp so far. So let's go over each of them. And some of this I've already reacted to, and some of it I've heard about, and some of it I didn't know. So this will help me as well to catch up on all the evidence that, at least by the time this post was made, which is by today, which is May 23rd. By the time this video is aired, though, it could be well into June. And I apologize for that, but that's just the way that I do content. You know, other people, they record it, post the next day. I don't know. I try to do that, but it just doesn't really work out. So I apologize for that. But so by the time this video comes out, the verdict could actually have been decided. So evidence against Johnny Depp so far. Number one, photos of Amber Heard with red cheeks, bruise on hand, bruise on legs, and some hair on the floor. Okay, so I haven't seen those photos yet, or I've seen the photo that people were posting online where it looked like she had a bruise. And of course, the pro Johnny Depp people are saying that it doesn't really look like a bruise, and that she had this makeup kit that she called a bruise kit, and then quickly on the stand corrected herself and said, well, it's a makeup kit to cover bruises. Some people are thinking that it was a Freudian slip, or a slip of what she actually calls it, which is her bruise kit, so that she can doctor bruises on her face. Who knows? I could see someone who was abused and had a kit to cover their bruises calling that makeup kit their bruise kit. I could see that. We don't know, and we just have to wonder about that. I will say that the picture of the bruise, the one picture of it's a red spot on her cheek, and she's turning, and a photograph's taken. It's not a quintessential bruise that people would have from an injury, from a strike to the face, but it could be an injury. It very well could be. There's another photograph that I saw that had the classic bruises on her face from having been battered, so that one seemed much more believable, or much less likely to have been doctored in any way. But I will also say that the picture with the questionable bruise, I'll take her word for it. It's certainly not hard to believe that Johnny Depp was violent with her at times. So that's the fact that she would have a bruise shouldn't surprise anyone if they have that assumption like I do. But so the photograph, they show two side by side, and she claims that one was taken at a different time, and because the examiner was trying to say that she took the photograph and then she enhanced it with a filter to make it look redder. And it's clear, it's the same photograph. Every strand of hair is in the exact same place in both photographs. There's no possible way that they were two photographs, unless she's a statue and she was in a room with no gravity and no wind and didn't move between. And because I think she claims the picture was taken at a later time, and she claims on the stand that they are different photographs, which either she doesn't remember it well and has a really hard time noticing that the two photographs are identical, one just has a different tint to it, or she's just straight up lying, and or she was told to lie because the lawyers thought that she would lose if she told the truth that it was the same photograph. I mean, to me, if you had a bruise, it's totally conceivable that he hit her, she has a bruise, she takes a picture and she looks at the picture, because pictures don't always represent what is happening in reality. There's algorithms and all sorts of software in your phone that changes the colors, and so you can imagine going, oh, that doesn't really look that bad, so let's use a filter and let's bring that bruise out a little bit. Okay, that filter looks good. Okay, yeah, now you can see the bruise better. And then you share that photograph. Is that so hard to believe? Now, the fact that she lied about it, though, in testimony, so she's either totally ignorant of how to evaluate such a thing, which I can't imagine, or she lied. And that lie is significant because if you're trying to convince a jury and a population of humans watching from afar that you're a truthful witness on the stand, then you just shot yourself in the foot there. And so anyway, we'll get to that point at some point. But anyway, so for Amber, she had photos of red cheeks, bruise on the hand, which I haven't seen yet. Well, there was a bruise on the arm. They're not listing it here from when he allegedly grabbed her, which could have been defensive. We don't know. She was claiming it wasn't. Certainly seemed like a very, very harsh grab. I mean, if you grab someone, the amount of bruising that was on her arm, it was severe. Anyway, so bruise on her legs, I haven't seen that, and some hair on the floor, I haven't seen that. But we did hear her claim that to the nurse that he had pulled her hair out. And like I said, for me, I think that some of that is probably true, if not all of it. I don't have a hard time believing that Johnny Depp was physically violent with all the other stuff. Anyway, but who knows? She could be lying about everything. Photos of random rooms and objects. Okay. Number 3, video recording of Johnny Depp smashing cabinets and cupboards after he lost a lot of money. I think whoever made this list is pro Johnny Depp, the way they're wording it here. But yeah, so that video of Johnny Depp smashing cabinets and cupboards, apparently he lost a lot of money just before that. Okay, but that doesn't justify the behavior. It also doesn't justify the clear intimidation he was trying to perpetrate on Amber Heard. That was an abusive moment. Number 4, photos of Johnny Depp passed out sleeping in various places. Yeah, we haven't got to that point yet. I think we will in the trial, but I have seen at least one photo of Johnny Depp completely passed out. He reports he used opiates all the time. If he's like any other person who used opiates, which I imagine that he is, and the fact that he could afford an unlimited supply means that at times he would either accidentally overdose and not die, but have a pass out episode, or he would have a hard day and would take a couple more pills to just really try to check out and relax, because he claimed that he would use to deal with his emotions. Or he was trying to distance himself from Amber, or he, in all of his meds that he's taking, the amount of meds he's taking, I don't know if he was taking it all the time, but it sounded like it, that he's taking psychostimulants for ADHD or something. He's taking benzodiazepines probably every day, probably to sleep, I don't know. He's taking opiates, and he's taking cocaine, and he's drinking alcohol. It's very common for polysubstance users to not necessarily have a routine because every day is different. It's like, oh, it's a party today, let's drink a lot. Okay, I'll use less opiates because I don't need that, and I'll take a little bit more Adderall because that'll keep me in the game at the party a little bit longer, but then I need a couple benzos to fall asleep because when I drink, it's, there's variables that people will, I don't know if that's true for Johnny Depp, but that's another possibility as to why he accidentally passed out. So, because I'm guessing that, because he was working the entire time, or that he was reportedly using opiates, and he was using opiates for months, possibly years. So I'm guessing 90% of the time his opiate use was the way that he described it, which is the way that most people will describe it to me, is that that early high that they got, they only have glimpses of it occasionally if they take more than their usual dosage. But on most days, they're just taking it to avoid withdrawals, and there's no euphoria, there's no relaxation from it. And then occasionally he would take too much, and then we'd see those pictures. So I think that's what we saw. And that, of course, means nothing in terms of the case. I guess it means that he was heavily using substances and either doesn't remember what he did or could have been prone to behaviors that were violent in nature. Number 5, Johnny Depp accepting in the audio that he headbutted her. Okay, we haven't heard that. I haven't heard that audio yet. I'm sure you all have. But I'm trying to make my way through it as fast as I can and post as fast as I can. But so Johnny Depp accepted in an audio recording that he headbutted her. During that altercation, that according to Johnny Depp, she was hitting him. I would suspect that they were screaming at each other and saying very nasty things to each other. I would suspect that she initiated the violence. I don't know that, but that's the pattern, either throwing something at him or hitting him. I think his MO upon dealing with her verbally was to match her word for word. The bits that we heard, there seems to be a lot of that. Well, So if I was to take a guess, I would say that half the time, at least, he was actually trying to de-escalate by trying in his way to explain things, or, like saying, I need you to understand, I need you to calm down, that kind of language. And then another half of the time he would puff up and say really nasty things to her, and of course she says really nasty things to him. And I imagine that some of the time she was actually being constructive too. I would, if I was to make a bet, I would say it would be on a lower percentage, maybe 20-30% of the time when he was being verbally aggressive, she was trying to, she was trying to help, because we did hear that audio recording where he's threatening to cut himself, and she, she's doing everything she can to stop. She's being nice, she's not berating him or anything. I imagine in that moment in the bathroom with the headbutt that she came after him and he restrained her, and then he did headbutt her. That would be my guess. And then he admitted it on audio. Why he would lie about it during the testimony, who knows? Now, maybe he would contend, look, I just admitted headbutting her because she was yelling at me the whole time. Then he claimed that it was nail polish on the tissue. Who knows? I could totally see a scenario where she attacked him, he defended, he struck her on purpose. It hurt her nose, it didn't break it, and it didn't create a bloody nose. But then we did see another picture where it did look like her nose was broken, did we not? Anyway, whether her nose was broken or not, that's how I would take it. But who knows? She could have attacked him and he did nothing, and he could have attacked her and she did nothing. I don't know. Johnny Depp, number 6, Johnny Depp texting Paul Bettany, let's burn Amber. Right, so I did hear that testimony, and it's not just let's burn Amber, let's bury her, let's put her in a trunk, just really awful things that you wouldn't hear from someone that wasn't at least somewhat abusive, at the very least verbally, to their partner. Have any of you ever said such a thing, thought such a thing, or texted a friend such a thing about your partner? I want to burn my spouse alive. Like, that's just... Now, and I've been saying this from the beginning, that Johnny Depp has such a flowery way of talking, that poetic way of talking, and other people have testified to that as well, that you could argue that he doesn't mean those things. In fact, I didn't react, but I watched a little bit of this testimony, and Amber was talking, they asked her about the prenup and postnup, and Amber was talking about how whenever the topic of a prenup or postnup came up, Johnny would say to Amber, according to Amber, that I don't want a prenup, it's we either stay together or we die. Something like that. Like it's death to us part, that kind of a thing. The way that Amber described it is kind of similar to the engraving on the knife, which I think Amber actually put on the knife. But anyway, right? Yeah. But they seem to have this language around like, it's do or die, the two of us. And we could say that's poetic. We could say that's histrionic. We could say that's black and white thinking. We could say that's both of their attachment insecurities. We could say that's some sort of tacit compliance with their style of relationship, which was highly volatile and violent at times. I think that they both they had a part of them, particularly Johnny, that actually liked that style of relationship, that it meant something. It meant that it was intense. You'll have people that will be like that, and sometimes that can be functional, obviously not violent, but for some couples, and this was confusing to couple therapists decades ago before we had John Gottman's research, that some couples, they fight a lot. And when you see that from an outsider, particularly if you're a clinician and you're trained or you come from a particular culture in a certain way, you look at that and you're just like, oh, that's dysfunctional, that's got to stop. But for some of those couples, they would be not like them, but in that direction in terms of being very hostile or moderately hostile during discussions of intensity. And they also had a lot of forgiveness and apologies and making up, and a lot of passionate love, sexual and otherwise, that would greatly offset. You remember that 5-to-1 ratio that Gottman researched. So I think that they think, especially Johnny Depp, wanted that style of relationship. Of course, it went way beyond that. But so that was anyway. So the Let's Burn Amber, it's like, is that adherence to that principle, or that, I don't know, that paradigm that you're trying to adopt of like, we're really intense as a couple? Is it that, or is it an expression of his extreme violent hostility towards her, murderous hostility? I think at the very least, it doesn't make him look good, and it doesn't provide helpful evidence regarding his contention that he was never abusive to her. And then number 7, audio of Johnny Depp howling. All right, so they don't have much evidence for Johnny Depp. Maybe see, is there more than that? She was saying, "Get off of me," in one recording, or supposedly, I think that was one of those garbled recordings. I think there's another admission of him pushing her, correct me if I'm wrong. And then the evidence against Amber Heard so far. So again, this is May 23rd. This is probably even published a few days ago. So number 1, audio of Amber Heard admitting to hitting Johnny Depp. True. That's just black and white evidence right there that she would hit him. "I didn't punch you, I hit you." I mean, that's all you need to know. Number 2, audio of Amber Heard taunting Johnny Depp to go out to the world and say he's the victim and no one would believe him. So I haven't heard that audio yet, but I've heard reference to it. My wife actually heard it and told me about it. She's like, "Did you hear?" Like, she was saying to him, "Oh, you're gonna tell people," she's mocking him, "You're gonna tell people that you're a victim of go ahead, go tell the world that, see who believes you," that kind of thing. Now, on one hand, if she is an abuser, then that's awful. I mean, not only are you and I'll tell you, a lot of women perpetrators will absolutely use that. They will say, yeah, good luck trying to, it's a way of control, right? If you're a perpetrator, you're going to use whatever you have available to you. And that's one of the things that you have available to you if you are a woman perpetrator. You can absolutely use that against the woman perpetrator against the man. You can absolutely say, no one's going to believe you, so you might as well just take it, that kind of thing. So that's one interpretation. Another interpretation is that they were mutually abusive, or he was more abusive, and she was just saying something to get him not to do that, or I don't know. It doesn't seem like that's likely, but it could be. Number 3 is photos of a bruised face on Johnny Depp. Photo of poop in the bed. Okay, the grumpy in the bed. It's hard to know. Of course, we had that bodyguard that said that he overheard Amber Heard bragging, I believe, soon after to her friends on the way to Coachella that she had done that. But they didn't go into detail as to what that meant. Did that mean that she literally just squatted on the bed, or was it that she picked up the dog poop and piled it up in his bed? They didn't ask, which I'm like, ask the question. What did you hear specifically? Tell me what you heard. I guess they would hearsay anyway. So who knows what that means? And if it's true, which, I could see, given everything, the nasty behavior between the two of them, I would say that's low on the list. Would you rather have someone berate you and call you a has-been, and you're ugly and you're fat and you're old, and hit you and throw stuff at you? Would you rather have that, or would you rather have them poop in the bed? I'd rather have poop in the bed. That's just me. But you can make your own choice. So I'm not saying poop in the bed is okay. I'm just saying, like, on the scale of things, it's really just not that high. But it does indicate a sort of unhinged nature to one's behavior, if believed by the jury. Number 5 is arnica cream, which Amber Heard supposedly used for covering up bruises, was never released at the time. I don't know, and we'll get there eventually, and I don't know that much about it, but I think she testifies at some point, look, I have this cream that I would use to cover up. It's my bruise kit. Remember, I talked about that, and I cover it up. And then someone did some sleuthing and found, in fact, I think the manufacturer of that makeup kit posted on Twitter or something that kit, it was not available at the time that she claims that she was using it on the exact dates, and was nowhere even near that. And of course, to the pro Johnny Depp people, it's like, we caught her in another lie, case closed. Another possibility is that she had a different, just imagine over time, and I'm just going to take a guess and say that she has a lot of different makeup things, and that was one of them. Not to stereotype women, but given how rich she is and how much she's in the public and I'm just going to guess that she has a fair amount of equipment. And the fact that, could it be that she did use a kit to cover bruises later, and she forgot that she swapped one out or something? Yeah, that's totally possible. Is it also possible that she was absolutely lying It's also possible. Is it likely that he hit her and caused bruises to her, injuries that she covered up with makeup? Yeah, I believe that. You can make your own call on that. Number 6, photos and medical records of Johnny Depp's severed fingertip in Australia. Yeah, so that whole severed fingertip thing, I'm curious as to what she'll say. I haven't got to that point in the trial, but that's pretty damning. I think what she's saying is he did it to himself, which is possible, but that's not a typical, I guess, maybe the contention is that he was smashing bottles because he was angry at her or something, and he accidentally caught his finger. I'm guessing that's what they would say. I can't imagine a different story that would seem believable, but I don't know. It doesn't sound, with all that we heard from witnesses, and I think from Amber herself, talking about throwing various bottles of various kinds, including the one with the can to the face. They come downstairs, the employee sees the two of them, and they're like, oh, there's an employee here, and then the employee sees a red mark on his face. She hears him say, you're going to throw that? You just threw that can in my face? That kind of witness account. With all those accounts and all that data, do we believe that in this instance, when Johnny Depp says she threw yet another thing at me, and this time it was a glass bottle and it hit my hand and it severed it not only severed, but it just completely blasted it to the point where it's not like they just reattached it and everything's fine. Like, it was very, very hard to reconstruct the bone and the skin and everything. It's basically just a stub at this point. And I don't know if he's still in pain, but he was in pain for many months after that because, the nerve damage and all that stuff. So, what do you believe? I believe that she did throw it, but I don't know. Maybe he didn't throw it. Somehow I heard the audio that's further ahead in the trial, in which she is being recorded soon after the severing of the finger, and she seems to be saying things that is an admission of guilt. Not directly, I don't think, but... And then number 7, audio recording of Amber Heard saying, oh, here it is, I never meant to hurt him. I didn't do it on purpose after Johnny Depp's finger severed. Okay, well, that sounds a lot more like an admission of guilt. I never meant to hurt him. I didn't do it on purpose. Okay, so what other explanation do you have? I think she was repeatedly saying that. Okay, I'm glad they followed up with that, because I'm sure y'all were going, no, she admitted it, basically. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty damning evidence. And I don't think she admits to that. Now, if she had, and she said, but that was just one of the times. He hit me many times. So either she's a liar and wants to lie all the time, or she's telling the truth, and none of us were there, and she just happened to say, I never meant to hurt him, I didn't do it on purpose. Or she was talking with the lawyers and thought, I want to tell the truth, and the lawyers are like, you can't do that. You have to draw a firm line. There can be no admission, because you will not win. If you create any doubt, then game over. So you have to lie. We have to figure out another story to tell, or don't answer these questions. Don't even, let's not even go there. Just say you don't remember or something. I don't know. I could see lawyers thinking that was a good strategy, and I could see that being a good strategy because jurors don't necessarily understand nuance. So, and you could, as a team of attorneys, pick jurors who don't understand nuance. It's not, just look at the internet. There's not a lot of nuance to this case, right? So could that be? I don't know. I don't know what's in Amber Heard's heart. Is it possible that she's like, yeah, that one time, that was all me, and I feel horrible about it. I never should have done it. I lost control. But you don't know what I was going through at the time. It doesn't justify it. But there were other times when he legit just freaked out and came at me. Is it possible that she holds that in her heart, but she doesn't want to say that in court? She doesn't want to say it in the public because she knows or thinks that the public won't believe anything unless she comes out strong on one side, or she committed in the Washington Post article that it was unidirectional intimate partner violence, and so she's just trying to make up for, or trying to account for that lie, trying to hold that line. I don't know. There's a lot of questions. Maybe one day Amber Heard will come clean. Maybe both of them will. Maybe it's I don't know. But anyway, number 8, audio recording of Amber Heard accepting she chased him to rooms and bathroom while he was trying to run away from her. Yeah, I mean, it just seems like multiple accounts from multiple witnesses, including Johnny Depp himself, saying that during fighting, she would chase him and she would follow him. Number 9, audio recording of Amber Heard trying to stop Johnny Depp from leaving to meet his daughter. Audio recording of Amber Heard trying to stop Johnny Depp from leaving to meet his daughter. Okay. I haven't heard that recording yet, but yeah, that doesn't surprise me, given what I think she suffers from is borderline. Any kind of separation is hard. We heard Johnny Depp talking about he was begging her to stay home for him to detox on the island, and she insisted, demanded that she go, and it didn't work out. And so he, again, as they went back to the States, said, I need you to stay. I'm going to go and I'll get sober and clean, but abstained, but I need you to stay here. I can't have you there. You're a complicating factor. And in fact, I would take a guess and say that most chemical dependency professionals would recommend that spouses aren't, particularly if there's a lot of conflict. It's just like, let's get the person to detox. Y'all need to be in various different therapies for the long term, but for the detox section, it's just easier if we don't have any other complicating factors. So anyway, but yeah, do I believe that Amber Heard was blocking Johnny Depp or stopping him from leaving to meet his daughter? Yeah, it fits the profile. I would be surprised if that wasn't true, given everything that we've heard, even from Amber herself. Number 10, Amber Heard accepting in audio recording, you run away from every single fight. Right. So that shows a pattern of when they were in high conflict, he would often extract himself, which fits the profile of someone who is in a relationship with someone with borderline. They almost always eventually just go like, get me out of here. Not that Johnny Depp doesn't also have issues. I conceptualize him as having a similar insecure attachment style as a result of a similar childhood, but his coping was to escape, whereas her coping was to lean in. But underneath that escaping tendency is the same insecurity, the same anger, the same triggers that she has. Number 11, audio recording of Amber Heard saying, I can't promise that I won't be physical again. Okay, I don't know if we've heard that, but I don't doubt that happened. Number 12, Amber Heard lied about donating to the divorce money and spent it all elsewhere. You've heard me talk about that already. That could indicate a pattern of lying. Could also just indicate that she just didn't know what she was doing when she committed to, doing all that, and didn't account on the fact that post-divorce her finances would be in question, particularly with the lawsuit. Number 13, Amber Heard caught in the elevator CCTV bringing James Franco to Johnny Depp's penthouse at 11 p.m. when Johnny Depp was on tour. Oh, I thought it was the day after. I thought that video was from the day after he left her. I thought it was May 22nd. And I said, when I reacted to that video, I said, well, if they're already broken up and let's say they had a burgeoning flirtation that is now accelerating now that they're broken up, okay, there might be a little cuddliness in the elevator. Also, it's possible that they're just friends. It's not unusual to cuddle with friends, regardless of gender. Also, might she have cheated on him? Sure. Might he have cheated on her? Might they have cheated on each other? Sure. That doesn't, I guess it lends itself to the lying pattern, but if I saw strong evidence of either one of them cheating during the relationship, I don't know if it would change much in terms of the question as to whether or not, or as to who and to what extent each person was being abusive of the other person. And by the way, when you are in an abusive relationship and it's unidirectional, the impulse to cheat as a victim is higher because you're just looking for any way out of the situation. You feel very alone, and you're actually pretty vulnerable to charms from the outside, or at the very least just wanting someone to make you feel better and protect you. The fact that Amber Heard might have cheated doesn't really say anything about anything. Number 14, evidence that Amber Heard and her sister also did drugs. Yeah. Amber Heard's sister testified she used to do drugs with Johnny Depp. Yeah. Amber Heard testified her sister taught Johnny Depp to sniff cocaine with a tampon applicator. Wow. Interesting. So the whole drug thing, I guess, is circumstantial or surrounding this whole thing, of course, but it's not strong evidence about abuse of any sort. Number 15, Amber Heard gifted a knife as the birthday gift to her alleged abuser, Johnny Depp. Yeah, I mean, that whole thing I was one of the early things that I reacted to, and I don't really see the relevance of that. The amount of the two of them are very artistic and intense people. They have a flair to them and style, and I imagine that it's a lot of that kind of stuff, right? Like knives, and I don't know. I could see both of them having, well, mainly Johnny Depp, just for fun, having this like elaborate knife collection. I don't know, he just seems like that kind of a guy. So the fact that she gifted him a knife that supposedly indicates that Amber Heard wasn't actually an abuser, because who would give your abuser a knife? Like, it just doesn't seem to be a connection. I suppose it could be in a slight way. Number 16, Amber Heard accepted that she wrote the op-ed. Right, so there's a question as to who's responsible for what was published in the Washington Post, because ACLU claims that think they wrote a good portion of it. There's also all these allegations about like conversations between Amber Heard and the ACLU or the Washington Post, and maybe even the DC movie universe, because Aquaman was coming out soon, and they're like, okay, we got it. And so if you're pro Johnny Depp, it's like, oh, obviously this is just trying to promote yourself. You're scheming regarding marketing, like who does that? If you're truly a victim, why would you care about when your movie was coming? It doesn't make any sense. On the other hand, if you're trying to raise awareness for Me Too and victims' rights, you're probably going to get a lot more press if there's some other reason as to why you would be in the press, right? So, they have all those press junkets and everything, and if you have some other story that's going on and people ask you, then it gives you an opportunity to talk more about it. It would be a good strategic move if you're trying to support victims' rights. Everything that we've heard here indicates strongly that the way she depicted it was not at least fully accurate, let's just say. There's that. But, if you think you're a victim, one of the things that research shows about bidirectional intimate partner violence is that there's a theory as to why people even will commit violence. And often not all the time, but often it's because the perpetrator believes that they are a victim. The perpetrator believes that, and we could see that happening with the two of them. They believe like they feel as though they're a victim, or they are kind of a victim. And they feel like the only way to communicate their assertiveness or their power or complain or to try to get some power back is to overpower the other person physically or verbally or sexually. And if both people feel baseline like they're being victimized, and both people are victimizing the other person because they feel victimized, then you could, after breakup, write a piece feeling like you were victimized, and the only reason why you did those other things was because you were being victimized. But if both people think that, then of course they both can't be right? It's just a legal, I think, maneuver to try to dismantle the foundation of this trial, which of course the Amber Heard team should absolutely attempt if there's any kind of question there, right? But I don't think anyone, including the jury, thinks somehow that Amber Heard is not responsible for what she wrote in the Washington Post and published there. And the fact that she accepted that she wrote it, quote unquote, supports that. But, it's so... Anyway, I tried to include other things that I didn't remember being included here. Oh, they didn't include this, but several moments at accounts of Amber Heard throwing things at him, several accounts and recordings of him being extremely verbally abusive to her and vice versa. Also, other evidence that should be mentioned is that some people will say, well, Johnny Depp lost the trial in the UK, which should be a strong indication that he doesn't have a leg to stand on here. I don't know much about the UK trial. I do know, I've heard that in the UK, the threshold for libel is much lower than in the United States, meaning that if you're Johnny Depp and you're going to win a case, you're going to win it in the UK rather than the US. So if you lose it in the UK, the chances are you're going to lose it in the States. But I don't know if they're exactly debating the same topic. But anyway, some people will say, well, he already lost his case, so we shouldn't really be relitigating it. Also, people will point out that they believe Amber Heard was lying in the UK trial, and there's this clear evidence. Like there's this one clip of her, she reveals that she had lied about TMZ or something, and you see her go like this. It's clearly a reaction of, oh no, I just said something I wasn't supposed to say, and then she tries to play it off like she's wiping her face. I mean, I don't know any other way to interpret it. Now, it's pretty clear that she's lying in that situation. What does that mean? I'm guessing that a lot of the individuals in this trial and the UK trial were spinning things at the very least, if not just full-on lying. It's not uncommon to do that in situations like this. The more mundane cases that I will work with is, say, with a divorce and it ends up going to court. I've seen people do horrendous things. And when you believe that you're righteous, then you're like, well, you know, what's a little lie here and there if my overall case is righteous? So who knows? But it doesn't make her look very good. And there are other analyses that, and I don't know of the accuracy of this, that will point out that there's these clear inconsistencies in her story that indicate that she was lying. Could she be lying? Yes. Does it mean she's lying about being abused? Well, maybe, but not necessarily, right? Also, we heard from Ellen Barkin, a past partner of Johnny Depp, saying that he was controlling. But then we hear from Vanessa Paradis, who he was with for, 12, 14 years or something, and she came out and publicly stated that he was never like that. He was never violent. The way Amber Heard talks about him is nothing like the Johnny Depp that she knew. What does that mean? I don't know. Could she just be covering a little bit? Could I see a world in which Vanessa, if telling the truth, would say something like, well, yeah, I mean, he would get jealous sometimes, and he had issues, and he used a lot of substances, and he got aggressive sometimes during conflict, but he was never violent, and I was never concerned he was going to be violent. Is that more potentially accurate? I could see that. I have a hard time believing that in his relationship with Vanessa, that there was never any indication of his issues, right? But who knows? Now, what does that mean? That doesn't really mean much to this case, because he still could have been abusive with Amber Heard. And this notion that somehow abusers always abuse is actually a huge myth. People can go their entire life without abusing anyone and then be in a relationship at the age of 55 and begin an abusive relationship. Now, abusers tend to serially abuse because their issues follow them and their attitudes follow them and their coping mechanisms follow them and their triggers follow them, but not necessarily. And one could be in a context in which the violence comes out, his drug use could have gotten worse, but it does say something, right? Because if he had been abusive to Vanessa and other people that he was with in the past, then it would look bad for Johnny Depp's case. Also, we want to look at Dr. Curry and Dr. Hughes' accounts and their opinions that for Dr. Curry, Amber Heard suffered from borderline and histrionic and did not have PTSD and was lying about PTSD. That's Dr. Curry. Dr. Hughes would say she absolutely has PTSD and she doesn't have any personality disorder. Who do we believe? I don't know. The indications of lying, at least on the testing, was not really there. There wasn't a strong signal, elevated K, but the other validity scales, the MMPI-2, which are hard to game. It's unless you're really lucky or really good, or you have a lot of coaching on exactly how to take the MMPI-2, which is possible, then it's really hard to make it seem like you, especially since she had a little bit of an elevated 3 and 6, then you would think if you were gaming the system entirely that you would learn how to respond in a way that didn't have any elevations. So who knows? But do I believe that she has signs of PTSD? Sure, I believe that. Do I believe that she might be trying to elevate her symptoms? Possibly. Do I believe that she would try to strongly suggest or strongly indicate that Johnny Depp was the sole cause of her PTSD and that she's completely denying the PTSD she incurred during her childhood. Yeah. What do I believe? There's strong indications that Curry was right, that she has borderline. Hard to know if she has histrionic. That's a harder one to find data for in the presentation, but strong indications of borderline, even from Amber Heard's testimony herself. There's so many indications, from the audio recordings to the accounts of everyone around, to the reactivity, to the desperateness of her not wanting to be away from him, even in mundane situations, being highly triggered when he didn't show up to the birthday party, according to Johnny Depp, so who knows. But it seems like that's very likely. So with Dr. Curry, could we believe that Amber Heard doesn't have PTSD? I don't know. I'm guessing that if I were to assess Amber Heard, which would never happen, and of course I can't diagnose from afar, that I would probably find that she definitely has complex PTSD and borderline, as derived from her childhood and exacerbated by her experiences. The thing about borderline, and I've said this before, I believe, is that, you could be going through something where you're the perpetrator of the abuse, and yet because you're interpreting it in a way where you're the victim, you will have trauma reactivity because you feel like you're being traumatized, and thus you are traumatized. You're not inventing the trauma. You see things that aren't there. It's similar to if you have a nightmare, for example, and you wake up from the nightmare, your heart is pounding, you're scared, you might even be off kilter all day long. Well, nothing happened. You just had a weird imagination, a creative story that flashed to your head, and now you have a real problem with your nerves, with your day, with your mood, with your fear response, your jitteriness that day. Well, that was invented in your head. Now, it's not the same thing with borderline, but we all understand that we don't have to experience actual trauma to interpret something as being traumatic. So for Amber, I'm guessing that she's had a lifetime of, at the very least, interpreted trauma, and probably very real trauma in her childhood, and I'm going to guess some real trauma with Johnny Depp as well. So I'm guessing that she does have borderline and does have PTSD and does have codependency, as I've talked about before. With Johnny Depp, like I said, a commensurate personality issue and attachment insecurity. The other thing that I should mention is that, and I haven't seen this testimony yet, but I've read about it, that Amber Heard has alleged that he sexually assaulted her. We heard about the cavity search, which is horrible, but I'm guessing it was a psychotic episode for Johnny Depp based on cocaine use. It doesn't make it okay, but it doesn't indicate the things that people will do when they're psychotic are not indicative of their general behavior. There can be some connections, of course, but now would someone be responsible for their behavior, particularly if they had repeated psychotic episodes, which I imagine he did, and then failed to actually try to get sober, putting themselves at risk of another psychotic episode, and thus Amber Heard at risk for incurring your violent outbursts during that state. Yeah, I don't know the legality or the morality of that, but it's in that context. I think she claimed that he sexually assaulted her, attacked her when he wasn't in a psychotic episode. I don't know, but either way, pretty awful. And if true, wow. I mean, just wow. Could it be a lie? I don't know. I don't think there's corroborating evidence, but there probably wouldn't be. There often isn't. So I am normally apt to believe victims that come forward for this, because victims almost never come forward, and so generally speaking, it's almost always the tip of the iceberg in terms of what they've actually been through and what the perpetrator has committed. So I would normally why would I disbelieve someone that would come forward with a story like that? But given this context, it's really hard to know, and I hope that people can really understand that about this case, that it's hard to know what happened given the motivations and the pressures on both of these people, that their career depends on this, that being canceled depends on this, their money, especially her livelihood, depends on this. I think he has a lot of money, so I don't think he needs this money, or would be harmed if he lost even the countersuit. I don't think he would lose that much. I mean, he owns an island, for crying out loud. But, there's a tremendous amount of motivation to, fabricate things. So Who knows? So again, I'm sure I've missed some things, and I'm sure some of you are like, no, there's this thing. Feel free to comment below, and I will review that for sure. I'm interested. Or email me, go to the website. There should be a link below to go to the website and the contact form and email me there. That's the surest way. If you comment below, sometimes your comments get buried and it's hard to scroll through, and because I post a lot of videos, so it's not really humanly possible. Well, I guess it's humanly possible, but I wouldn't be doing anything else. I wouldn't be making content. I'd just be looking at comments all day. So yeah, if I've missed anything, fine. But I'm guessing I'm not missing anything that greatly changes the picture. I'm just going to take a guess on that, but I don't know. Let me know. All right, well, that does it for that episode, I think. I think I talked longer than I thought I would. And so I will end it here. And then the next video, I'm actually going to go over the research regarding how severe researchers, anyway, delineate between different degrees of physical, psychological, and sexual coercion and abuse and aggression. And we will look for at least what we think happened between the two of them, and I don't know, maybe we'll develop some sort of severity rating scale such that we can rate, in terms of at least my conceptualization, who was more abusive than the other person, because we have these data here. So we'll tune in next time when we do that. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.